So what happens when we combine a child prodigy with an extensive family network that has garnished so much power and influence, while at the same time harboring some insane and sadistic views of the world, seeing everyone below her and there to serve her experiments to her liking, while reigning as queen? Well, this culmination of terrible traits would result in the evil Alexia Ashford and her major role in Resident Evil Code Veronica, which she sees herself as the queen of the world, using her newly developed experimental strain of the progenitor virus to achieve her horrifying vision of what the world would be like under her influence. So in this second episode of Explaining Evil, we covered the prodigy of the Ashford family from Resident Evil and explain all the misdeeds she's committed to try to achieve her goals, also explaining her background, her creation, the intentionality of being to hold up the Ashford name, and the end results from all that surrounds this once renowned family. So without any further ado, let's explain evil with Alexia Ashford. So to begin, we actually have to cover a short summary of the once renowned Ashford family and its subsequent descent just prior to the birth of Alexia, because it was told that the Ashford family came into prominence due to the ancestral matriarch of the family, Veronica Ashford, being described as someone with so much beauty and in combination with so much intelligence, which with both of these traits, she would help raise the Ashford name into prominence, with each successive descendant continuing to carry the torch, keeping the family in power and very well connected to the other European aristocracies, which eventually led to Edward Ashford, the grandfather of Alexia and co-founder of the Umbrella Corporation, to start the infamous research into the progenitor virus, along his then once friend and co-founder of Umbrella, Oswell E. Spencer. Well, the years leading just prior to Alexia's birth, the research into the progenitor virus would become a tumultuous factor between the co-founders of Umbrella, with the one who could harness the fullest potential of this virus would undoubtedly wield full control of Umbrella, which already at that time, Umbrella already had so much power within the world due to his pharmaceutical and military-based experiments. And while according to Alexander Ashford, the son of Edward Ashford, a snag would arise in the middle of the struggle of research into the T virus, with his file memo found in Code Veronica reading, "My father, Edward, discovered the mother virus in cooperation with Lord Spencer, who was also a nobleman. They studied it for the purpose of military use. Eventually, their study took shape. They named a variation of the mother virus the T virus. To camouflage their research, they established Umbrella Chemicals Incorporated. I majored in biogenetics and have been involved with a top secret project supporting my father's research. However, my research went through a difficult phase and my father died in the middle of the project. We are now at a major disadvantage against other researchers, as there is great competition in the field of the T virus research. I have disgraced the honorable name of the Ashford family that our great ancestor Veronica established. If nothing is done, Umbrella will be taken over by Spencer. I must expedite the project to its fullest without being detected by Spencer. After much thought, I decided to establish a large-scale advanced research facility. It will be located in the transport terminal that I created by using the abandoned mine in the Antarctic. Within the facility, I'll have a room built. It will be similar to the design of my mansion, the legacy of the late Trevor. I will be able to cherish my sweet memories there. For security purposes, this confidential project will be given a code name. It is the name of the beautiful ancestor of the Ashford family, Veronica, whom I wish to revive so badly. I am confident that the results of my research will be as glorious as her name, and that honor will be restored to the Ashford family once again. So upon reading that, we learn Alexander's struggle to keep the Ashford name afloat, especially with the sudden loss of his father Edward. This of course would be the perfect catalyst for Spencer to take over the company completely, rendering Alexander and the Ashfords powerless within the company unless they produce something that may turn things around for them, which this point was also touched on in the memo, which he yearned to revive his ancestor Veronica. So with all that said, this singular mindset that Alexander wanted to raise the Ashford name again, he came up with a plan in doing just that, which we would read on the Veronica report. After many long years of research, I finally identified the inheritance element that administers the intelligence of man. I even succeeded in manipulating the absolute value of intelligence artificially by recomposing the base alignment of the element. I then sampled the gene of our great ancestor, manipulated its element, then implanted it into the unfertilized egg of a surrogate mother. What I didn't expect was twins. A boy and a girl were born. The boy had higher intelligence than normal, but not high enough for him to be considered a genius. However, the girl had unmatched intelligence that easily allowed her to be classified as a genius. She was exactly what I had been looking for, the revival of our great ancestor. I already determined their names, the girl's name Alexia and the boy's name Alfred. I'm certain that Alexia will elevate the name of the Ashford family to extreme glory. So after reading that, this of course was a perfect solution that Alexander wanted to have to achieve his goal of keeping the Ashford name in power, not just within the European social circles, but also within the umbrella corporation itself. Because as expected with Alexia, Alexander found her to be a complete child prodigy, being heralded as a genius from a very young age. Her brother, on the other hand, was known to have an above-average intelligence, but nothing that would be deemed worthy to raise the Ashford name again. So with the spotlight on Alexia, her intelligence and beauty are only matched by her ancestor Veronica. Her rise to power at an early age became very apparent, being known to have already graduated from a prestigious university at the top of her class, then moving onward to work within the Umbrella Corporation as one of its top researchers. Well, at this point in her early life, one would think she was set to achieve massive amounts of accomplishments within the Umbrella Corporation, but a turning point would soon happen when we read this. January 30th. There's a sealed room in the hallway located inside the Antarctic facility. I don't know what's hidden in there, but I do know how to get in. I can use the 3 jewels that each one of our 3 family members wear as proof of being a legitimate descendant of the Ashford family. The only problem is, I do not know how I can gain possession of my father's proof. February 17th, I finally succeeded in entering that sealed room and never could have imagined that such an insane secret existed regarding the birth of both Alexia and myself. I hate my father, that fool Alexander. Now it is obvious that we were merely created in an attempt to cover my father's blunder. I can never trust him again. I must regain the glory of the Ashford family with my sister. I have nothing to be afraid of, as long as Alexia is with me. So with only reading halfway through Alfred's diary, the discovery of both Alexia and her brother's artificial creation by their father Alexander, this would become a turning point in Alexia's insanity, because as a child genius and already a top researcher within the Umbrella Corporation, she already had the leanings of conducting her own experiments, with this file explaining the start of her grandiose plan of becoming the eventual queen of the world. After discovering the remains of an ancient virus within the genes of a queen ant, I have been concentrating on the research of ants. The ecosystem of the ants seemed truly ideal to me. There is one queen ant in each anthill, and the soldier and worker ants are the queen slaves. They dedicate their lives to the queen. The death of the queen ant means the doom of the entire anthill. However, the soldier and worker ants can be easily replaced as long as the queen ant is alive. This is exactly the same relationship between myself and the other ignorant masses. I have succeeded in creating an ideal virus by implanting the queen ant's gene into the mother virus that Spencer found. I used my otherwise useless father as a test subject. However, as I expected, the virus caused a rapid change in his cells, triggering the complete destruction of his brain cells and body flesh. Furthermore, a special type of poison gas was generated inside his body that the blue herb had no effect against. Because of this, I created an antidote in case of emergency and stored it inside of the weapons/chemical warehouse on the B2 floor. I have decided to name this virus with unimaginable potential the T Veronica Virus. When I find out how I can utilize the power of this wonderful virus, my great research will finally be complete. So with that said, we have to retrace back on the second half of Alfred's diary, which reads, March 3rd, Alexia carried out the experiment on the human body that we've been talking about. Our useless father must be happy now, since he can finally contribute to the Ashford family. The only thing we should be careful about is that butler, Harmon, does not become wise to our activities. April 22nd, the experiment resulted in failure. Our father was useless after all. Even worse, he turned into a dangerous monster that is completely out of control. We tied him down and locked him up in an underground prison cell. However, Alexia seemed to be close to a solution. Beyond all my expectations, she now says that she wishes to conduct the experiment on her own body. On top of that, she feels that she must be kept asleep for 15 years in order to accomplish the experiment. Thanks to that idiot, I can't see my dear Alexia for as long as 15 years. Alexia is going to sleep, with all of her trust relying upon me. Now, I am the only one who can protect Alexia. So as evident from Alfred's perspective, he was undoubtedly upset from the failed experimental result on their own father and the subsequent sleep that Alexia must do to achieve her goal of her experiment, which in the end, we get Alexia's perspective with her virus report, stating, "Work continues on the T Veronica virus, which I extracted from the Queen Ant. The more research I conduct on it, the more I am impressed by how much potential it has. I have finally implanted the virus into my own body and discovered how to utilize its power. I will avoid making the mistakes that I made on my father. I will suppress the activity of the virus at an ultra low temperature so that my cells will change slowly. My calculations indicate that it will take 15 years before my body will gain immunity and become able to coexist with the virus. Until then, I have no choice but to trust the capsule I will be in to that inept but loyal soldier ant who is my brother. For me to obtain unlimited power, some risks need to be taken. When I awaken, I will be the queen, and the T Veronica virus will be unleashed upon the entire world by my children. Every last creature on Earth will exist to serve me. At that time, the world will achieve the perfect ecosystem just like the anthill, but on a much grander scale." Anyway, so far, we know that Alexia experimented on her own father, Alexander, after discovering her artificial creation and the sole purpose of bringing back glory to the Ashford name. Though in the process, this caused Alexia to take steps into insanity and resulted in turning her father into the monster Nosferatu. So upon realizing the potential of her newly created T Veronica virus, her insanity knowing no bounds, experimented on herself, but would require her to be in cryostasis for at least 15 years for her body to adapt to the T Veronica virus. Which now brings us to the present time in Resident Evil Code Veronica, which at this moment, the 15 years already passed, and the reawakening of Alexia bound very soon. The results from our experiments will be in full view as we find out what would happen to those infected with it, which the great example we had was with Steve Burnside and how her experiments would change him.
Steve?
Oh, Claire.
Who did this to you?
That crazy woman told me she was gonna perform the same experiment on me that she did on her own father. She's completely insane.
What's wrong?
Claire! Can't breathe. Claire! Help me! Claire!
Also, I want to point out there were a couple of different retelling versions of Alexia's actions after her awakening, with the original in Code Veronica showing some affection toward her brother after he dies from his wounds, or the more sadistic version which she kills Alfred herself after being awakened by him. So I'd like to quickly point out that the relationship between the siblings could be borderline uncomfortable, with Alfred's affection towards his sister showing no boundaries, especially with this passage from his confession letter. Alexia, my sister, is a genius and possesses unmatched beauty. She is everything to me. I would overcome any obstacle and be willing to risk my life for her. For Alexia, I must revive the glorious Ashford name, which fell during the era of my father, Alexander. Together, we will restore our family name. Once that has been achieved, I'll build a palace where only nobles may gather. I cannot allow the unwashed to see my dear Alexia, to whom my life is devoted to. She reigns the world as queen, with I as her servant. That is my dream, and how sweet it will be. Those accomplishments will be the proof of my love towards Alexia. It is the purpose of my existence. All other people are meaningless, and they shall soon prostrate themselves before Alexia and I, devoted to my beloved Alexia, Alfred Ashford. Anyway, so with Alexia's combination of intelligence, insanity, and the very interesting relationship with Alfred, also all the while now wielding the T Veronica virus without any drawbacks or repercussions, we see the fruits of her experiments in front of us when she's able to achieve some supernatural-like attacks like from what we've seen here, which would be from her confrontation with the infamous Albert Wesker, which at that point, he too already showing some superhuman-like qualities already himself. Though I would say not at his peak or prime of his abilities like we saw in Resident Evil 5, which we could say that Alexia not at her prime as well, since she was barely awakened just recently herself. Anyways, even with the sadistic experimentations on her own father and Steve, the killing of her brother, and the wanting of her becoming the Queen Anne of the world, all would be for naught for Alexia, as she was eventually stopped by Chris Redfield himself. In the end, her worldview of using her experiments and having those infected working under her would deem her to be a completely insane and evil human being, lacking the moral compass that many of us possess, and even going beyond killing those with the same blood as her just to achieve her goals. All the while acting in a sadistic and uncaring tone that only someone so evil could do. Anyways, what did you guys think about Alexia Ashford and her goals using the T Veronica virus? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys want more explaining evil episodes, please feel free to let me know on which character to cover next, and it doesn't particularly have to be a Resident Evil character as well. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and this is Hey DeVuH, and I'll see you guys on the next video.